some of you guys out there, your mind is going to be blown. You young guys and gals may not know that there was a legendary venue in this town where they not only served amazing chicken, but they had some of the biggest bands that you can think of out there. I'm talking Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. I'm talking about, yeah, I mean, the list is massive. REM played there, just to name a couple. But let's get our guest in here right now. She is the director and the person behind this wonderful documentary that I'm holding up here. Remember the Drumstick? Let's welcome our guest, Cathy Lohmeier. Cathy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Man, we could not be more pumped about having you. I personally went and saw this particular documentary at the Ross when it was there, and I did so because I play with a lot of older guys in the bands that I'm in, and these guys are always talking about, man, the Drumstick. This happened at the Drumstick, and I'm like, in in the early '80s, I was like, 5 and below, right? So I had no idea that this stuff had even gone on, but the memory has lived on with these people, and I've heard so many amazing things. But this particular documentary was just like it's gonna blow your mind, Lincoln. You and the older guys, they're just gonna nod their head and go, they're gonna high five each other and go, "Oh yeah, I remember that place." So let's just dig into it right now, Cathy. I mean, could you tell us what's your tie to the Drumstick?
All right. My father owned the Drumstick. It was a chicken restaurant from about 1966. And so it was our family that ran it. My dad, my brothers, my sister, myself, pretty much everyone in the family worked there. And there were 8 kids. And so I was number 7. And yeah, it's just the Drumstick. It was a chicken restaurant. In 1978, I was getting married. We needed a place to have a band and a wedding reception, and we couldn't find any place that would stay open after midnight. And we knew we needed a place that stayed open. So my dad said, "Well, let's just do it at the Drumstick." And so that was the first time we ever had a band there. Was 1978. We had Little Jimmy Valentine and the Heart Murmurs for my
Man,
wedding reception. I didn't stay married. I did not stay married to the guy, but it was sure a good party.
you guys had to have been a fun family. I mean, I could only imagine having a place like that and then what it turned into and everything. Like it had to have been a blast.
Well, I mean, we were a post World War II family. Dad was in the military. He was the Army, what was he, a mess sergeant in the Army. And they got out of the military. World War II's over, and they started having babies.
Wow.
And so 8 kids. It was, you know, it had some highs, very high, and had some lows, very low. But in general, when you have that many people in a family, you just learn to get along. And my dad taught us that in spades. Just, he came from a family of 12 and they lived through the Depression. So, you just get along. You have fun with your siblings as much as you can. Always a party, always a ready made party because there's always a crowd.
So, Cathy, I'm going to jump in and being one of the older members of our podcast, I grew up in that area during that time. And so I kind of remember what it was like. And, you know, honestly, Lincoln was still pretty small. So anything that was happening, like everybody, it seemed like everybody knew everybody. And of course, Drumstick being just kind of this small restaurant right there, not far off of O Street on 48, really is the heart, back then was Central Lincoln. And, you know, I mean, everything you could do around there, like Cool Crest was there, the Holiday Skate World was there. I mean,
Buffalo
uh,
Motel,
Buffalo Motel was next door. That's right. That was just, uh, you know, that,
the Starview Outdoor Theater.
yep, down on Vine Street. Like everything you did in Lincoln was really within that area. So it's not a surprise to me that, there was, a music venue that happened. It's crazy to look back and see how amazing it was to get these unknown bands to come through and, just this little restaurant.
Yeah. Well,
And so And I know your brother was obviously a big part of that. And so I hope you can tell us a little bit more about your brother and how it all got started.
Well,
But
absolutely.
somebody that grew up in that neighborhood and remember going to your place, got a lot of fond memories of that area, and it's crazy how it all developed.
Yeah, it was a chicken restaurant, but we served breakfast, hamburgers, french fries, a T-bone steak occasionally. But my dad opened it all night. He was one of the first restaurants in Lincoln to be open all night within the city limits. And so that place would be mobbed when the bars closed on the weekends. And, so there was always a lot of kinetic energy in that building. Um, and then what really happened, I mean, we had this band for my wedding reception. We all had a great time. We stayed open till like 3 or 4 in the morning. We even had some people come in and sit down after the bars closed thinking it was still open for a restaurant. And we're like, no, I'm sorry, this is a private party. You have to go. But here, have a pork sandwich. We're serving them for the reception. Um, so, and we just never really thought about it anymore after that. But a tragedy struck our family 2 months later. My mother was killed in a car accident at 56 and O. A semi tractor trailer ran a red light and broadsided her, and she was basically dead on arrival at the hospital. And I mean, when you have a family of 8 kids, so you got these 10 people, and, mom was the rudder. She was the rudder to our family. And when she died, it was just my dad went adrift, the restaurant, he wasn't interested. We all my sister and I and my new husband, we all tried to move in and try to help run the place cuz he was lost. And it wasn't making enough money to support my dad, me, and my family, and my sister's family. So we thought, well, hey, let's get a beer and wine license. So we got a beer and wine license. And then we thought, this still isn't cutting it. How about, well, we could book bands on the weekends. Maybe that would be fun. Maybe we could get some people in for that. And that's really how it got started. Who was it? Who was the first band? I'm trying to think of who it was. The Clones. The Clones was the first band we ever booked there after Little Jimmy Valentine and the Heart Murmur. And we played them on a Friday night after the dinner rush was over, and then a Saturday night they played again after the dinner rush was over. And yeah, we made a little money, a little extra money.
You
And
know, of course, at that time, like, live music was a thing. Like, you could, you could go to see a band on a Tuesday, Wednesday night. There was a good music scene for live music back then. And so I don't think you were far off of wanting to do that. Of course, like I said, the area, which a lot of people may not know, was where the McDonald's is now.
yep,
5 blocks north off of O Street there on 48th, and
I still
you
remember
know,
the address 547 North 48th.
When the picture, you can see the Kmart sign in the background, like when you look at that old picture that's on there,
Oh,
which
yeah.
that gives me fond memories because I was one of those brat kids that used to hide in the middle parts of the clothing and pop out at people. But we probably
Kmart.
we probably did pass by the Drumstick quite a bit. I mean, we lived in Lincoln most of my life, so yeah. I mean, man, it's just so awesome hearing all this, and I just think that the listeners are going to eat this up.
Well, I mean, we're just going to tell them about it, and hopefully they'll appreciate the history there because what happened after we just started booking some local bands, it was no big deal. Uh, and we had fun. And the thing is that it was me, my sister, my then husband. We were kind of doing this. We got it started. We even had melodramas there. I don't know if anyone even remembers that, but I found a newspaper article that showed that we had put a melodrama, play on inside that place. It was a big space, We could use, it held maybe a couple hundred people, probably not sitting down everybody, but it could hold that. It was a good space. So anyway, we were just trying to make a little extra money, and then my brother Tim moved back from Maine, and he was the one that went, "Aha."
He had that big aha moment. Yep.
We didn't see it happen, but he felt it. And when Tim got involved in anything, there was going to be some serious energy and a serious party.
Scratch the vinyl.